I am very excited to play Pokemon Legends ZA. Kalos, despite any shortcomings, has always felt to me like one of the most unique regions we've seen in the world of Pokemon. Despite that excitement though, I would be remiss to charge into this game unprepared. I mean, come on, we're heading into a metropolis functioning upon a rule set entirely different from anything we have ever seen in a game that had Krogunk in it. Except Pokken, I guess, but I'm sure it's been at least half a decade since any of the 7 Pokken players watching this have even touched that game, so the point still stands. We are charging into the unknown, and while we may not be able to fully familiarize ourselves with the mechanics of the game before its release, we can cover our other bases in the meantime. We are traveling abroad, and as someone who is, let's just say well-traveled, I can tell you the #1 important thing to know about the place you're visiting. The overall economic stability of the region and whether or not it could be turned on its head by one 16-year-old and their pet frog. So let's talk about that! Before we can dive too deep into Lumiose's economic state specifically, we should start by setting a basic understanding of economics, and I'm talking real basic. When it comes to an economy functioning as it should, people having money is good. People spending that money is paramount. So the goal of a functioning economy is to give its people a reason to spend money. There's more to it insofar as labor and production goes, but it's not all that important for what we're talking about today because we're just going to assume everyone involved can get money and that production happens automatically in the background. You know, because both of those things are true in the world of Pokemon. We actually can see this in play throughout the series, as most of the bigger cities have some sort of key economic draw to them. We as the player may visit them to earn our badges, but that costs us literally $0 to do, so it's not exactly a great business model. As such, most of these cities also have some sort of key tourist attraction that is meant to draw in people who will then spend money on local products and services like food, souvenirs, and lodgings. Notice how I said most, though. Lumiose City is a bit of an outlier here because its industry is not focused around one main attraction. But don't get me wrong, the Prism Tower does exist and does draw crowds, but I'd guess that the tower isn't what most of us think of when we hear Lumiose City. No, what we think of is probably the absolute labyrinthine streets stuffed with shops, NPCs, and cafes that all serve to do nothing except for make navigating the city the biggest challenge X and Y has to offer. Lumiose City is massive, probably still to this day the largest city in any Pokemon game, and it's within those impressively detailed passages that we find a bustling economy that is equally impressive in its meticulous construction. Lumiose City has a total of 33 different businesses, as well as 6 office buildings that we can assume house multiple businesses as well, but will ultimately be ignored because we have no real way of measuring or observing them. Those other 33 though, they've got a story to tell. Among them sit 15 cafes, 8 stores, 4 restaurants, and 6 other assorted businesses including things like Lumiose Museum, Hotel Richissime, and the PR Video Studio. Lumiose is economically unique from most other cities in the Pokemon series because it doesn't live off of one key industry. Instead, it's home to a tapestry of seemingly unrelated smaller businesses. In terms of economics, this is a very good thing. It's better for a city to have economic diversity rather than to be primarily dependent upon one industry to provide cash flow. That way, if one industry does face a downturn, you still have the others to hold the city up. So, cool. That's it, we're good then. Lumiose is the picture of economic stability and we can start packing our bags. You know I wouldn't be making this video if that was true. The real X and Y heads in the audience have probably noticed something about Lumiose that I've neglected to mention up until now. Something that makes it one of the most unique cities to spend time in among any Pokemon game, and something that to this day has never been seen in the series again. A mechanic that allows us, the player, to engage with the city's culture in a quantifiable way. It's time we talked about style. Style is a hidden mechanic present specifically within Lumiose City that, well, determines how stylish you are. What does that do? I think the better question is what doesn't it do? Style can influence how much specific goods in Lumiose cost, what goods and services are even available to you, and even grant you access to establishments otherwise off limits to you. Remember those 33 businesses? How many do you think are impacted by style? 9 out of 15 cafes, 6 out of 8 stores, all 4 restaurants, and 2 out of the 6 non-categorical businesses are all affected by style in some manner. That leaves us with 21 out of 33 businesses, or just a little under 70% of Lumiose's total industry, being tied in some way to style. If that isn't a big enough number, don't worry, we can make things look considerably worse. Those 12 businesses not affected by style? The player can only even spend money at 2 of them, which means that the actual non-style industries that we can even contribute to are considerably fewer than the numbers already show. Style is intrinsically tied to the cash flow within Lumiose, and if we want to analyze how stable this economy is, we're gonna first need to take a deeper look at how this mechanic works and what it even means within the sociological context of the city. The more you look into style, the more you'll notice one thing. The people of Lumiose yearn to be stylish. Having style is to have the respect and adoration of people across the city. It is a status symbol. And wouldn't you know it, entire industries are built on status alone. Here, quick economics lesson. One of the very basic ground rules of economics is the law of demand, which pretty much says that as the price of something increases, the demand for it decreases. Cost of thing goes up, desire for thing goes down. Now I can already hear it. You're saying, now hold on, completely reputable and trustworthy hyper-niche YouTube personality. If the law of demand is real, then how come there's still a commercial yacht industry? How come indeed? Well, the reason for that is quite simple, really. Humans love to show off. You see, expensive things like designer clothes, watches, and sports cars are all classified in economics as Veblen goods, named after the economist who coined them, Thorstein Veblen. A Veblen good breaks the rules set by the law of demand, where it sees an increase to demand that happens because of an increase to the price. Thorstein here picked up on patterns of commercial consumption that were solely focused on seeking and flaunting social status. And what better way to flaunt your status than to show everyone around you how grotesquely rich you are? He classified this behavior as conspicuous consumption. He also coined an adjacent term, conspicuous leisure. Conspicuous consumption is spending more money than what is practical, primarily with the goal of achieving and displaying status, while conspicuous leisure are activities engaged in for the same primary reason. Think buying designer brands or going out to expensive restaurants. Now, in order for these practices and industries built upon them to thrive, one social phenomenon needs to also be present. Stratification refers to the act of a society categorizing its people into labeled groups based on a number of factors, including perceived social status. These groups are usually organized in some kind of hierarchy, and as such, it is desirable to achieve the highest rank you can. Sounding familiar yet? That's right, Lumiose City's style is in fact a form of social stratification, and because of this, as all economies do, Lumiose cities evolve to exist within this culture and shape the culture itself around what is profitable. We've just talked about what style achieves, but we haven't talked about how to achieve style, have we? Why don't we take a look at that real quick, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about. Within Lumiose City, there are a total of 22 repeatable actions you can perform to increase your style rating. Of those 22 methods, only 7 of them cost the player nothing, which means that once again, almost 70% of the ways in which one can become stylish will require them to spend money. It's also worth noting that the ones which don't have a monetary cost typically have a pretty steep time cost. You can spend a few minutes working at the hotel or battling in the Battle Institute, or you could go to a shop and press A 3 times. I think it's pretty clear where the optimal path lies. Now, I'm not going to claim these businesses owe their success only to their place within this social ladder, but I think it's safe to assume that their status as more affordable ways to the top certainly does bring them a lot more traffic than they would see otherwise. The flowchart is simple. Have the smaller businesses contribute to style, and have the more expensive ones be gated entirely by style. Those that can afford them in the first place will be the ones who have the money to climb the ladder of style all the way to the top. Because so few people will ever climb that ladder, the businesses at the top are seen as a luxury and thus cement their status as Veblen goods, and as such will see a high demand because of their high price. I do want to mention that the way this is all worded kind of makes it sound like I'm claiming the economy was designed from the ground up with some kind of pyramid scheme in mind, but I think it's honestly more likely that it just evolved with the trends like I mentioned earlier, at least in regard to the smaller businesses specifically. Savvy business owners would notice trends and design their establishments around them, thus leading to their success and cementing their place in this economic ecosystem while also perpetuating the flow of said system. Can that really work though? I mean, if only 100 out of every 1,000 people ever make it within the style-gated doors of boutique couture or sushi high roller, does that really lead to a flourishing economy? Yeah, actually, quite easily. Let's just do some math. Restaurant Leia is the median in quality and price, so we'll say 1,000 people eat here in a day. They've got simply inhuman service speed, it really is a sight to behold. Each meal is priced at 15,000 polka dollars, so at the end of the day, the restaurant would see a gain of 15 million, ignoring any cost of running the place because I don't really feel like thinking about all that. Sushi High Roller, on the other hand, serves meals at a charming little 500,000 polka dollar price point, which means if they only see 100 customers a day, a paltry 10% of what Restaurant Leia is seeing, they are ending that day at 50 million polka dollars. With 10% of the customer base, they are seeing a 333% profit increase over Restaurant Leia. So, Leia, the system's profitable. Extremely so. But, if you remember, we aren't here to learn if it's profitable. We're here to find out if it's stable. We've established that the economy as a whole hinges on a social phenomenon that leads to their luxury goods being highly desirable because they are in fact luxury goods. So what, then, would happen if the demand for those goods and services were to disappear? Well, first, would it even matter? I mean, how much of Lumiose's cash flow even relies on them? Let's take a look at that. Using our previous numbers, let's say 1,000 purchases are made from every business that doesn't have a style requirement. That's 100 polka dollars for a Lumiose Galette, 200 for a museum audio guide, 200 for a go-goat shuttle, 3,000 for a haircut, 100 for the juice from the juice shop, 1,700 for the median cab fare, 500 for a fur-frou cut, 4,550 for one of every item from the herb shop, 6,300 for one of every evolution stone from the Stone Emporium, 8,500 for one of every Pokeball type from the Pokeball Emporium, and finally 118,000 for a meal from all 3 restaurants for a grand total of 143,150, which we then multiply by 1,000 for our 1,000 non-stylish customers to give us a grand total of 143,150,000 Poké Dollars made across the city from all businesses. Looking at only Boutique Couture and Sushi High Roller, one meal costs 500,000, and one of every product from Boutique Couture totals to a quaint little 5,804,900 Poké Dollars for a grand total of 6,304,900 Poké Dollars. Multiplying that by the 100 customers these businesses are seeing in our theoretical example, these 2 places alone are making 630,490,000 Poké Dollars off of 10% of the sale numbers that the non-stylish businesses are seeing. That's nearly a 450% increase and over 80% of the city's total net revenue. Lumiose City lives and breathes on its luxury brands. Without them, the city loses at least 4/5 of its total revenue, and that doesn't even account for the potential hit the smaller businesses would take without the style incentives behind their purchases. But hey, it's fine. That's like a worst case scenario. I mean, is there even any realistic way for the luxury brands to lose their status overnight? Wanna find out? Step 1. Infiltrate Lumiose City. It's a bit of a walk, but you're going to be spending the next 4 days of your life sitting, so enjoy it while it lasts. Step 2. Spend all of your money. Get as little cash as possible. In fact, go ahead and head over to El Barris on Vernal Avenue and buy as many heal powders as you can. But only one at a time. See, style gain isn't based on amount spent, but rather on amount of individual transactions. While you're here, try and build good rapport with the staff, because you're about to be seeing quite a bit of one another. Step 3. Don't actually build good rapport, because I realize at this point in the script that the following step requires you to play half of the entire game to solve an energy crisis, and doing that will give you access to a much better store for style accumulation. Step 4. Now that you're as broke as possible, go hail a cab. It doesn't matter where you go, just that you go, because riding in a cab also builds style. At the end of your ride, the cab driver will request payment for his services, at which point you will have to have a rather uncomfortable conversation. Having no other option with which to put food on the table, the driver will then challenge you to the most legal form of a shakedown in this world, a Pokemon battle. Beat him. Just breaking character real quick to mention, so there's a list of cab drivers you can get when you roll the cab driver fight, and it just so happened that the one I got was the strongest one with the level 66 Crocodile, and on this save file, I haven't beat the Elite Four yet, so I'm rocking like 48 max. So I don't know why that happened, nor do I know why he countered my weather on turn 1. No clue. So I managed to beat him, thankfully, but, just be careful. You might get rocked a little bit. And you know, if that happens, just, try again. Doing so will net you a little over $2,000 at a minimum. Go ahead and slap the amulet coin on your lead Pokemon to bump that up to 4,200. Step 5. Head over to the Pokeball Boutique now that we are at the point in the script where I realize you have to have access to that store, and spend all of your money on Premier Balls. One at a time, of course. Once you have your 21 shiny new Premier Balls, repeat steps 4 and 5 approximately 6 times, and enjoy your status as the most stylish person in all of Lumiose City. That's not why we're here, is it though? It was never about the status, was it? No. This was about putting status back into the hands of the people. Luxury is only luxury because it's expensive. Because of that, we probably won't be able to get Boutique Couture to lower the prices on their products. So instead, we'll just have to make those existing prices easier to stomach. See, what we've just laid out is a plan that can get anyone in Lumiose to the top of the style charts, assuming that A, the city isn't suffering from a widespread blackout caused by a now defunct crime syndicate, and B, said person in Lumiose can beat a cab driver in a Pokemon battle 6 times. That does, however, only give us style. And style doesn't spend well, it only gives us the opportunity to spend more. In most cases. There are some establishments within the city that offer discounts to particularly stylish customers, the most egregious abuser of this being the Stone Emporium. This one-stop rock shop sells megastones at an astounding 1 million polka dollars per rock, but offers the same exact stones to the most stylish customers for a mere 10,000. If our newly crowned style tyrant can scrounge up a measly 10K, they can purchase this luxury product at a 99% discount and then resell it to someone less stylish. Because the original discount is so large, we can still afford to mark down the initial price 90% and sell the megastone for 100,000 to someone who wouldn't have enough style to get anywhere near that good of a deal from the Stone Emporium itself. Spend that 100K on 10 more stones, sell them for the same price, suddenly we've turned 10,000 polka dollars into 1 million. We could even then spend that money on boutique couture products and sell these status icons for mere fractions of their original cost as well. Suddenly, we've created one hole in the economic system of the city, and remember, anyone can do this. If even just one person makes 10 sales, it would take 10 to make 100, and only 100 to make 1,000. If our example from before only saw 100 patrons at these businesses in the first place, it would only take 10 people gaming the style system to lose all 100 of those customers, assuming they shifted to buying secondhand to get better prices. Now, I already see the flaw in that logic. Those 100 customers aren't looking for a good deal, they're looking for status. But if these luxury items are suddenly 90% more affordable, then they're going to be in the hands of almost everyone in Lumiose City. They'll lose their status. Remember, a Veblen good's demand goes up if the price goes up. So if the price decreases, the demand is lost. And with it, so is over 80% of Lumiose City's net revenue. It's been over a decade since the release of Pokemon X and Y, and based on the trailers alone, it seems like a significant amount of time has passed in universe between those games and Legends ZA. If this city's economy was sitting this vulnerable for this long, I think it's almost certain that this loophole was exploited. From what we know at the time of writing this, the entire city seems to shut down at night to accommodate the sheer number of people flocking to the streets in order to battle their way to the top of the ZA Royale for the chance at having one singular wish granted. Does that seem like the result of a bustling economy? Well, actually, yeah, it could be. We could assume that this is the result of economic crisis, but I think it's almost as likely that this is simply just a culture shift. Style stopped being a status indicator, and thus, battle prowess had to replace it. The ZA Royale might just be a new way of organizing and ranking people within this hierarchy. I bet we'll see plenty of businesses built around the Royale when we finally step foot back into Lumiose City after all these years. Or it will in fact be an economic crisis, and I'll be back here in a few months to yap about that. Either way, I'm really excited to go back to Kalos.